What's up, everybody? Today I want to talk to you about some things I wish I knew when I first got into the hobby. Now, these are going to be some tips for beginners. Maybe if you're thinking about getting into painting, or you've painted a couple of miniatures and you're looking for some pointers on how to get a little bit better. So let's jump into it. So you finish building your first model and you might be tempted to just start slapping paint down onto it right away. But before you do, you should think about priming the model first. Paint can have a hard time sticking to the model itself because there's chemicals left over from the production process that actually prevent the paint from adhering properly. Primer will help the paint stick to the model, and it'll also prevent the paint from chipping. There's nothing worse than finishing a beautiful paint job only to have the paint chip off because you failed to prime the model before you started. In addition, you can use color primer as a base coat to get a jump start on your painting. If you're not sure what color primer you should be using, black is a great color for any dark colored models, and gray is a great color for any lighter colored models. Now, you may be tempted to buy cheap craft paint to save money when you're first getting into the hobby, but craft paint really shouldn't be used on miniatures. It goes on thick, it's going to leave a lumpy, chalky texture, and frankly, your miniatures deserve better. Paint from companies like Vallejo or Army Painter is going to cost you a little bit more, but it's much better quality, and it won't obscure any of the nice details that you have on your models. Now, if you don't want to dive into the hobby head first, maybe start with a few basic colors and then build up your stock over time as you need it. Or maybe you can even ask a friend who paints if you can borrow a few bottles from them. There's nothing that painters like more than getting other people involved in the hobby. This might be the most important tip a new painter can get, and that is thin your paints. There's a reason this has become a meme all over the internet. It's a very easy mistake to make for new painters. When paint comes out of the bottle, it can be very thick. A thick coat of paint will fill in some of the small details on your miniatures and can even leave little brush strokes and streaks in the finish. The solution is simple. You don't need anything fancy. Just mix a little bit of water into the paint to thin it down before you start painting. Unfortunately, there's no golden rule for how much water to use, since different paints have different consistencies. So this is going to take a little bit of trial and error to learn. The paint should flow nicely off of the brush and not leave any streaks, but if the paint is runny and starts pooling in the recesses, then you probably mixed too much water in. Now, you might think you're painting tiny little miniatures, so you're going to need a tiny little brush. And tiny brushes have a place when you're painting miniatures. They're great for painting small details. However, much of your painting can be done with a much bigger brush. When you're laying down your first coat, the detail brush is going to take a lot longer. It's going to be time consuming. It's going to be frustrating. So don't be afraid to get in there with a big brush and be a little bit messy. You don't have to color in the lines on your first go, since you're going to be painting the details separately anyway. After your main colors have been finished up, then it's time to go in with a smaller brush and pick out some of those details and accents. And this gives you a chance to cover up some of the areas where you were a little overzealous with the first color. If you're painting with dollar store brushes, you might not mind treating them as disposable and throwing them out every once in a while. But if you have one or two nice detailed brushes, then it's very important that you take care of them properly. The most important thing you can do to take care of your brushes is to be careful not to get paint in your ferrules. The ferrule is the metal part of the brush at the base of the bristles, where the bristles connect to the handle. When paint gets all the way up there, it can be really difficult to get out, especially as it starts to dry. And once it dries, it's going to cause the bristles to split at the end, and you won't be able to get a nice fine point like you want when you're painting. Now, to avoid this problem, make sure that you're not mixing your paint with your good brush, since this is the easiest way to overload the brush with paint. And if you do ever notice that you have paint in your ferrule, then quickly give it a good rinse in your water cup. Don't forget to have fun while you're painting. It's supposed to be a relaxing way to help you enjoy the hobby more, not something that's going to stress you out. Remember that it's not a competition, and nobody starts out a great painter. But we can all agree that no matter what level you're painting at, anything's better than playing against bare plastic miniatures. So have fun while you're painting, and be proud of your fully painted models when you put them on the table. So that's it. The top 5 things I wish I knew when I started painting. Hopefully this will help some of you get started painting and avoid having to learn some of these lessons the hard way. If you already have some experience painting, post a comment below and tell us what advice you would give to a new painter to help them avoid some of the mistakes that you made. Don't forget to like the video and hit subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.